Imagine the vibrant, bustling streets of Queens, New York, a melting pot of cultures, a place where the American dream plays out in countless ways. But beneath the surface of this dynamic borough, a darker reality has taken root. We're talking about Roosevelt Avenue, a 2-mile commercial strip that's become a battleground, a place where residents are pleading for federal intervention. This isn't just about petty crime, it's about a well-oiled criminal machine as described by former Democratic State Senator Hiram Monserrat and local advocacy groups. They're saying that Roosevelt Avenue has transformed into a red light district, a hub for gang activity, drug trafficking, and prostitution. The heart of the issue is the alleged dominance of the 18th Street Gang, a brutal organization that's reportedly turned local bars into brothels and the streets into their own territory. Residents are living in fear, witnessing open drug deals and the exploitation of vulnerable individuals. The problem is so severe that local leaders are calling on FBI Director Kash Patel to step in. They argue that the New York Police Department's NYPD efforts, while appreciated, haven't been enough to stem the tide. Operation Restore Roosevelt led to numerous arrests, but locals say the gangs simply replaced their foot soldiers and the illicit activities continued. This situation raises serious questions about public safety, law enforcement's capacity, and the vulnerability of immigrant communities. Reports indicate that many of those involved in prostitution are immigrants, adding a layer of complexity to an already dire situation. The contrast is stark. While national political figures engage in broader debates, their constituents are grappling with a crisis in their own backyard. This is a story about the disconnect between national politics and local realities. To give context, the 18th Street Gang is a transnational criminal organization. They are known to be extremely violent and very organized. This makes the situation in Queens all the more dangerous. The voices of the residents are becoming increasingly urgent. They're not just statistics, they're families, business owners, and everyday people who are seeing their community deteriorate. They describe a sense of lawlessness where criminal activity occurs openly and with impunity. The fear is palpable. Residents express concern about the safety of their children, the decline of their neighborhoods, and the feeling that they've been abandoned by those in power. They are saying that the quick fix by the NYPD was not enough and that those that were arrested were quickly replaced. Former State Senator Hiram Monserrat and the organization's Neighbors of the American Triangle and Restore Roosevelt Avenue are some of the main voices that are pushing for the FBI to get involved. They are claiming that the situation is ever worsening. The residents are not only concerned about the gangs, but also the human trafficking that is happening. They are claiming that many of the women that are involved in the prostitution are victims of human trafficking. The frustration with the current situation is increasing. There is a sense of feeling that the local government is not doing enough, that there needs to be federal intervention. This is a story that brings up the question of what is the role of the federal government in local law enforcement? When do the feds step in? And when is it the local government's responsibility? The situation in Queens has inevitably drawn the attention of political figures, adding another layer of complexity to the crisis. Republican lawmakers, including Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, have amplified the concerns of the residents, directly appealing to FBI Director Christopher Wray. The initial request mentioned Kash Patel, but current reports indicate the appeal is to Wray. They are framing this as a failure of local Democratic leadership and a consequence of what they perceive as soft on-crime policies. Malliotakis, along with other Republican representatives, sent a letter to Director Wray urging the FBI to investigate the ongoing and worsening crisis on Roosevelt Avenue. They highlighted the alleged control of the 18th Street Gang and the associated crimes, emphasizing the need for federal intervention to restore order and safety. On the other side of the political spectrum, figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, whose district includes parts of Queens, have acknowledged the concerns raised by the community. However, her approach emphasizes addressing the root causes of crime, such as poverty and lack of opportunity, rather than solely focusing on law enforcement crackdowns. AOC has stressed the importance of community-based solutions, social services, and addressing systemic issues that may contribute to criminal activity. While acknowledging the distress of residents, her proposed solutions differ significantly from the calls for federal law enforcement intervention. This divergence in approach highlights a broader debate in American politics regarding crime and public safety. Is the primary solution increased policing and federal intervention, or should the focus be on addressing the underlying social and economic factors that can lead to crime? The political rhetoric surrounding the Roosevelt Avenue situation underscores how local issues can quickly become national talking points, often framed through partisan lenses. This can sometimes overshadow the immediate needs and concerns of the affected community. The question remains, can a bipartisan consensus be reached to effectively address the crisis in Queens, or will political divisions hinder meaningful action? The calls for federal intervention raise significant questions about the role of federal law enforcement in local crime. Generally, local law enforcement agencies are primarily responsible for addressing street-level crime. The FBI typically gets involved when there are violations of federal law, such as interstate drug trafficking, human trafficking across state lines, or significant civil rights violations. For the FBI to directly intervene in the situation on Roosevelt Avenue, there would likely need to be evidence of federal crimes falling under their jurisdiction. The allegations of gang activity and prostitution, while serious, might primarily fall under state and local laws. However, if investigations uncover evidence of organized crime involving interstate activities, human trafficking rings operating across state lines, or federal drug offenses, the FBI could potentially become the lead agency or work in collaboration with the NYPD. The legal framework governing federal law enforcement jurisdiction is complex. The principle of federalism generally reserves police powers to the states. Federal intervention in local law enforcement matters is typically reserved for specific circumstances where federal laws are implicated or when local authorities are demonstrably unable to address the problem. The political pressure from lawmakers and the public can influence the decision-making process of federal agencies. However, any federal involvement would need to be legally justified and aligned with the FBI's mandate and priorities. It's also important to consider the potential impact of federal intervention on community relations. While some residents may welcome increased federal law enforcement presence, others may be concerned about potential overreach or negative impacts on immigrant communities. The decision of whether or not the FBI will directly intervene in the Roosevelt Avenue situation will likely depend on the evidence gathered, legal interpretations of federal jurisdiction, and the political considerations at play. As the situation on Roosevelt Avenue continues to unfold, the community remains caught in the middle of political debates and law enforcement complexities. The urgent need for tangible solutions is undeniable. Residents want to feel safe in their neighborhoods, and those being exploited deserve protection and support. Any effective long-term solution will likely require a multifaceted approach. Increased and sustained local law enforcement presence, coupled with community-based initiatives, could play a crucial role. Addressing the underlying social and economic factors that may contribute to crime, as advocated by figures like AOC, could also be essential in preventing future issues. Support services for victims of prostitution and human trafficking are also critical. Providing resources for housing, counseling, and job training can help individuals escape exploitative situations and rebuild their lives. Collaboration between local authorities, community organizations, and potentially federal agencies, if federal laws are found to be violated, will be key. Sharing information and coordinating efforts can lead to more effective crime prevention and intervention strategies. The situation on Roosevelt Avenue serves as a stark reminder of the challenges facing many urban communities across America. It highlights the complexities of addressing crime, the importance of listening to the voices of residents, and the need for thoughtful and comprehensive solutions that go beyond quick fixes. Ultimately, the story of Roosevelt Avenue is a test of our ability to balance law enforcement with community support, address immediate safety concerns while tackling root causes, and bridge political divides to create safer and more vibrant communities for all. The eyes of the nation, and more importantly, the hopes of the residents of Queens, remain fixed on what actions will be taken to restore peace and justice to this vital artery of New York City.